Yo, 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 it's again another episode here, Concepts Talk. We have another phenomenal guest here, another young lady doing phenomenal things in the health industry, all the way from LA. She's our first virtual guest. So, big shout out to her for spending the time to actually talk with us and share with some of the expertise she have in her field. But without further ado, Miss Emily Nader, yeah. See,
Yes.
we actually just talked. We actually just talked about that, and I still got it wrong. But thank you for your time. We truly appreciate you. But you're a health coach, a performance coach, practicing holistic health and nutrition, and trying to change lives of athletes and just individuals in general. But I don't want to talk too much about what you do. I want you to tell us exactly what inspired you to become a performance coach.
Yes, thank you for that lovely introduction. What inspired me to be a performance coach? I feel like there are many moments throughout my life that kind of like led me to the work that I'm doing now. It wasn't always holistic, it wasn't always health, like holistic health surrounded, maybe more so exercise science and things like that. But I'd always had this deep fascination for the human body. I think it's incredible and how it works, how all of the pieces, all of our systems help one another, everything's connected. So that's what I studied in college. All the experiences that I had in internships there led me to more athletic performance just because I'd always thought that athletes were like some superhumans. They're able to train their bodies to do exactly what they wanted it to do and at an insane level, especially when you go up to those like elite status athletes at an insane level of performance. Um, I also think it's super interesting how like sports can be such a metaphor for life and people just in their business and all that stuff. So being able to take what I've learned from supporting athletes and supporting people in their lives in general. But now with my practice in holistic, just so many other life experiences I've had throughout learning more about myself and how I best function and implementing that into my practice and how I treat my body and how I show up every day to perform, not only in the activities that I do, but also show up every day for myself to perform in my business, um, be there for my family and friends, just being my best self each and every day.
And I like that. I like how you use the metaphor about sports and life. I think that, just in general, if you're pursuing some professional level in any sport, you're going to dedicate a lot of your time to being the best that you can be in that sport. However,
Mhm.
those same attributes, that same discipline, you have to use those same principles in your actual life. So, how you're taking care of your body, what you're doing to prepare for these games or these tournaments, whatever it is that you're doing within the sport that you have, even if after your sport journey, you go into business or you're working for someone, those same principles, you still have to implement that in your daily day routine. And I think it's incredible that you're sharing awareness on that because outside of sports, if you're not an athlete, a lot of individuals there's a very few individuals that take care of themselves outside of just being an athlete. And I think it's very important to be aware of what your body is actually capable of. I think we sometimes think that these our bodies are just some foreign object where we eat whatever and it's just like okay because there's no immediate consequence to it. But we're gonna let you tell us a little bit more about all those things. But I do want to know, you know, how has your own personal journey, influenced your approach to becoming a performance coach?
It all kind of started for me in college, and I realized how down I was on myself and the thoughts that I was having. Just super negative, horrible. things running through my head. I started to feel really uncomfortable about the way that I felt physically. So I knew that there had to be, like, I had to do something about it. I wasn't going to just let myself go down this path. I was like, I didn't feel like myself. I need to do something about this. I was actually in a sports psychology class when this was happening. And I mean, I think the timing was perfect for me because what really stuck out in my head that we were learning about is how your mental affects your physical just in general, but specifically in that class, your game. So I took the note as I need to go move my body because that's going to support my mental health. So I started going to the gym and I realized how, like, the huge connection there between mind and body. And I immediately felt more positive in my mood, in my mindset after just going to the gym one time. And then that compounding over and over just really pulled me out of a funk. And it really solidified that connection for me, that mind body connection. And throughout that as well, I started I was on some, I wanted to call them supplements. They're not supplements. I was on pharmaceutical prescription drugs at the time too, that I kind of realized was contributing to the experience that I was having mentally, as well as physically. And so I kind of started to think, like, how can I get closer to the root of who I am as a person? Because we didn't need all of this stuff like a long time ago. Like, we didn't need the pharmaceutical drugs. And of course, there's a time and place for them, but I had a reliance on them. I was abusing them. And that was also something where I was like, I don't need to be doing that. And so I started to learn how to take care of myself in different ways. For me, it was the ADHD. And I'm sure a lot of people have this experience of not being able to focus, whether it's on a certain task or just when you're talking to a person and your mind is wandering, just all of these things. Like, the attention that we have these days with social media and flipping through our phones, it's gotten much worse. And contributing to that too is the food that we're eating. The food that we're eating affects us mentally. And I started to realize that as well. Like, oh, okay, I was eating the food in the commons. It was making my stomach hurt every single time I ate it. So I was like, okay, I got to stay away from that food because my body is giving me a sign that it doesn't like it. And that's what I had pinpointed it to. I was like, I'm doing nothing different, but every time I eat this commons food, my stomach hurts. So I stopped eating it and I felt so much better. And just figuring out ways that I can, like, just in my everyday life to kind of refine myself where I can focus better without needing to use drugs to be able to focus. And so it was experiences like that, and quitting drugs or getting off of those amphetamines was a really big learning experience for me because I had to be honest with myself and be like, okay, yes, we're going to do this. There's another way. I don't need to be on drugs. I can figure out what my strengths are, focus on those, build those up. I'm good at planning. I'm good at writing things down. What else is going to help my focus, my sleep, water intake, what I'm eating, so less sugary foods, all of that stuff. I know this is kind of like, it seems like it's tracking away from the performance side, but just in everyday life, being able to focus, if you're an athlete or not an athlete and you're running your business, you're high performing in your job, you want to be able to focus every day at work and not feel tired and low energy. Taking a look at everything that you have going on is going to be super beneficial for your performance in every single day. So that's kind of how I see it now, is as a performance coach too. If I have a client coming to me saying, I had a bad game, or this feels really weird when I'm going up to jump, then I'll ask them questions to like kind of figure it out. And especially coming from a holistic side, is treating the person as a whole. So, how can we optimize your performance? Like maybe it's not necessarily what you think it is right away, like a surface level thing. Maybe it's something completely different that is affecting you in your life, like a relationship, um, or certain friends that you're around, and then it's just not helping you uh, reach those really high levels each and every day. I know that was kind of like jumping around, but
No, totally. I think you gave a overall understanding on, what it means to be aware of, your surroundings, from your mental state to your actual physical state. And I like how you said before, like I feel like I like to stay in my primal state. And I like to do things in a holistic way as well. So like, and what I mean by a primal state is that, like you said, we didn't have to use all those extra medications or those extra things to heal us, to heal ourselves. Not saying we were the
Mhm.
best human beings back then, but I still believe that if we were able to heal ourselves in a way where we didn't need extra help, then I think that's the most beneficial way to actually um, treat your body. And just because now you're reliant that you have to trust your body. You have to trust that your body is able to heal itself properly. And I love that. Just going about just growing, just to make sure that I have a longer lifespan, just in general, where I'm not feeding myself these medications, because yeah, it's medication, but there's also a lot of other things within that medication that can be doing certain things to your body.
Mhm.
And you kind of what I want to touch bases on, that you mentioned holistic. So what does it mean to take a holistic approach to your health and performance, and kind of why is it important for athletes and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think that this is the probably this gets me so excited because I feel that if this word holistic, I know to some people it could sound like, woo, oh, this girl's from Los Angeles and she's talking about holistic. She's like a hippie. Um, but there's so much more to, I mean, and it's what it means to you as well. Like I'm big on definitions of words and using them to help you understand what it means, so that way you can use it to your best benefit, but also creating your own, like relating it to yourself and creating your own definition of that word for you and how it applies in your life. So, holistic is like seeing that everything's interconnected. If I were to treat someone holistically, I'd be treating them as a whole, not just a physical person, but also as a spirit and a soul, and that they have a mental aspect of their body, physical aspect of their body, and like a spiritual, like soul aspect of their body. If you're thinking about it in way like just holistic as treating it as a whole too, and everything being interconnected, it's like all the different systems of your body, they all affect one another. So if your cardiovascular system is not functioning to its best ability, it will probably be affecting another system of your body, like your muscular system, and kind of seeing it that way. So it's the same with mind, body, spirit. If your mind is not functioning properly, then you'll probably see effects showing up in your physical body as well. And it kind of is just like connected like that as a web. Um, so that's kind of how I see holistic. And then and how it's important for everyone is, it's like sometimes you're focusing on like the 10% of something that you think is going to move the needle for you, but there's so much more to the puzzle that you're not seeing that can really move that needle for you, like on that other 90%. So a lot of people will want to focus their energy on What's the best medication that I can take to lose weight? Or, like, I need a pill to fix my problems, or like, I need a pill to focus. Um, it's not like that, like your energy is best put in other places. So looking at, how is my sleep hygiene? How is my sleep affecting my day? How is the energy that I show up with every day affecting me? Like, how is my mindset? Am I viewing things like nothing's going to work out for me always? Like, here we go again. Or am I really taking the chances and trying to see the best outcome for myself?
Which for me, holistic is similar to what you were saying, but I think of it as an approach to where that I just like to heal naturally. Like I don't do anything else. Like now, if it's something super severe that's going to require some additional help, then yeah, I'll have to get that done. But in most cases, like I try to let my body heal itself without any other additives or any other medications. Now, if I have to take a Tylenol or something, then it's completely fine. But
Hmm.
if I'm not feeling well, if I do have the flu or anything in those cases, I'll just try to let my body heal itself so that it can just continue to be stronger in that sense.
Hmm.
Because again, I'll think back to the primal days where like they didn't have access to all of these medications, they didn't have access to doctors and all those things. So the body would just learn how to heal itself and adapt to these type of situations if it were to happen again. And how that as individuals or human beings in general, like we have to understand that we can't always rely on certain things to help push us forward or help keep us strong. And it does affect you in a mental state as well, because now if there are things that happen to you, let's say you get a cold, you come down with the flu, then immediately you're going to think of all the medication that you need to go get because your body just don't know how to handle this virus or whatever it is. Now, when you become that dependent, it would transition to your actual day to day, your actual mental state. And if anything were to arouse in your life, if you do have a challenge within anything, you're immediately going to try to find something to actually help you cope with that rather than understanding that you can actually get through it yourself. All you got to do is just, do it or follow through with the certain things that needs to be done to actually
Hmm.
overcome this. And you mentioned some things about the actual mind state and the mental state of, yourself within, aside from just being a performance coach, you want to help your clients stay in a great mental state. Because yeah, you were mentioning in the very beginning that being in a negative, like in a negative world or negative realm, that would cause you to not really perform at your highest level. You won't really be at your highest self, or you'll cultivate all these things that just doesn't make sense to you. So
Hmm.
I want to go into that. Like, how does the mind state impact the performance, and what techniques do you kind of use to help keep individuals in a positive mind state?
Hmm. This is, I mean, I have a lot of favorite topics, but this is like one of the best. Mindset is so important. If your attitude, and I might have touched on this a little bit, but your attitude is huge, and that's part of your mindset. It's like, how are you showing up? Um, how are you showing up for yourself, number one? And then how are you showing up for others? There's the whole side of it too, where you have to be delicate within the people pleasing aspect of things, because well, a lot of the clients that I work with too are that is very prominent in their life. Like, they've been people pleasers, or they give so much to other people, and are learning to give back to themselves first, so then that way they can show up their best for other people. And it's the same in team sports. I feel like showing up for your team also means showing up for yourself. Because if you want to give your best self to your team, you have to show up for you. So what are you doing for yourself, each and every day, each and every moment, to make sure that you are not even just positive? Because I know there's like a lot of positive psychology could be I guess there's nuances to everything. So even with positive psychology could be, not leaving room for somebody to experience the negative emotions that come up. Negative emotions and negative thoughts, like in terms of your mindset, are very real. And it's not like we need to shove them or push them away. It's important to acknowledge those thoughts so they don't have any more power over you than you want them to. So I feel like when we tend to push things down, they grow and grow and grow, and then they explode at some point, and it's like this worst case scenario thing that happens that we didn't want to happen, but we didn't handle it before, so it came up, it bubbled up. So what I like to tell people, and an amazing tool that I use personally for myself, is writing things out. If I find myself starting down a negative track, I'll grab my journal, I'll write out some thoughts. So I acknowledge them, and then I release them like that in the journal, and I replace them and reframe them with positive thoughts or positive things that could happen. So a lot of times we'll think, like, well, what if it goes wrong? What if it goes this way? It's like, well, what if it goes right? What if we get what we want? What if we can expect good results for ourselves? And a lot of that comes in the attitude, in the mindset, and how you're showing up each and every day. There's also important things to address there as well that can take it even deeper as to beliefs or fears, like deep rooted fears that exist inside of us that we're just scared. Like what, like in that worst case scenario, like what if this does happen? Like I'm scared that this is going to happen. Fear, especially in terms of, like, if I'm relating it to like a game, if you're visualizing the bad thing happening where maybe you hit the ball out, that you hit the ball out of bounds or it doesn't go in the basket, you're replaying or you're playing that image in your mind of that thing not going the way that you want it to. So, a really important thing in life too, like also in sport, a lot of the best athletes, if they're not, if not all of them are already doing this, is mental rehearsing the good outcomes, the things that you want to happen, and really seeing success for yourself, eliminating the fear, but seeing success for yourself so you know you've been there before. This is possible for me. So that's like a question I like to ask too. Like, what do you believe is possible for yourself? If you never thought that success is possible for you, then that's probably not going to be the outcome that you're going to get. So being able to really have, like, get your attitude dialed in and how you're showing up, um, focusing or reframing, first acknowledging your negative thoughts and reframing them into positive things that you can feel better about, and then visualizing and rehearsing your success so you know that it's possible for you. So
Yeah.
those are some of the main things that I help my clients do.
And that right there is like, we hear it all the time. And I know for me, going back to my athletic days, is before any game, I'm visualizing how I'm going to perform. So with that is just, it should be number one, the way of life. And I think what you were saying is that if you focus on something that you don't want, that's usually what you attract. And isn't it, I think that's something called like the Murphy's Law of Attraction or something like that, where you receive exactly what you don't want.
Mhm.
And and this isn't for everyone, but if you are in that state where you go through these repetitive cycles and it's just not exactly what you want out of yourself or how you're performing, because you may be working extra hard to get better results, but you just may not really be believing in yourself because you believe that you're not worthy of being able to reach this level, or you're not worthy of being able to attract this amount of things to yourself. So that 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 general aspect of being mindful of your mental state and what you're constantly thinking of, and is usually what you're going to attract. So, nowadays, with all of the information that we have now on the internet, we can kind of understand that, but actually practicing and overcoming that gradual consistency of trying to visualize something that you haven't seen before. Can you like share? I guess what would be important. You mentioned that you actually tell your some of your clients that they need to practice this. Can you share some examples of, what and how this actually led to an improvement in your clients' performance with actually practicing their mindfulness?
Hmm. Yeah, mindfulness is the number one thing that I help my clients work on with whatever it is that their goals are. And I guess specifically in terms of like one of my clients that is an athlete, like a younger athlete, I asked him, he's kind of down, and I'd ask him questions like, "What are you thinking about when you're in the dugout?" And it's thoughts like, I can't mess this up for my team. Like people are counting on me, and he's like putting a lot of pressure on himself. So and I'm like, okay, well, what are you thinking when like you're at bat or like going to pitch, and just figuring out where his head is at. Um, I'm really big on like client led. So I don't like to tell my clients what to do, but I will ask if I can make suggestions. Just because I'm a firm believer in everybody knows, or each individual knows what's best for themselves. What works for me might not work for somebody else. So me asking the questions and what would be helpful for them, um, is one of the best ways that I can help that particular client moving forward. So in this case, with the time that we had, um, I recommended like a suggested reading, and I can recommend it to you here. It's one of my favorite sports psych books. It's called Mind Gym. Maybe you've heard of it, but it's by Gary Mack.
Okay.
But that's an amazing book. Honestly, even if you're not an athlete, I would read that because it's everything that a sports psychologist does working with professional and professional and elite athletes, and everything that he has them do, and like the mindsets and dreaming and all of that stuff. Um, I like to ask a lot of outcome questions with other clients that are trying to lose weight. So ideally, if you were to have the perfect body, like what would that look like for you? And a lot of it too is the biggest obstacle is thinking that it's not possible for themselves. So we have to remove all judgment because we're our own biggest and worst critics. And we will think like, we'll get embarrassed. Like, okay, I'm imagining myself with like six pack abs, like running on the beach with a bathing suit. Like, that's what, but some people can't go there in their head. Like, they can't visualize what that would look like for themselves. So, removing the judgment, finding the obstacle. What is the biggest fear that you have? And kind of leaning into that, like going into that, naming it, describing it, and like I said, giving it less power than it honestly has over you, because like it would be allowing that fear to get stronger and stronger. If you're able to look at it, lean into it, know exactly what that fear is doing, then you can know, okay, like honestly, now that I acknowledge that fear, now that I spoke it out loud, it doesn't seem as like scary. And then, so then we're able to move more into a visualizing process. And what I would say is, if I'm leading a client through this, we'll ground first. So we'll take some breaths, And then I think it's easiest if you shut your eyes. So you're able to use like your mind's eye to really see, and honestly feel, like feeling the sensation in your body too. What does it feel like to achieve this goal? What does it look like? Who's around you? How does it sound? Like, is everyone happy, like cheering? And really get down to all of the details and visualizing that for yourself and feel that set. Like, if it's like making it real for you, you will have this like feeling inside of your body like, yes, like I know what this feels like. I've been here before. I can accomplish this. And then really writing it down to make it real as well. And then bringing it back to the present moment too, and being like, okay, what can I do right now to help me achieve this goal? Like, what is the next step? And if that is getting out on the court or getting out into the fields, or if you're in your business, if that's, just taking the step to finish your taxes. Like, yes, you're going to need to
Yeah.
complete your taxes so you can stay in good standing with the IRS and yada yada. Like, what is the next step in the right direction, and have that feel good for you, knowing that you are taking that next step to get you closer to accomplishing that goal and being like in that vision that you have of yourself.
That right there is very important. Now, I think it's so important, and I would say in my community is because we don't see a lot of individuals meditating. Now, you're in LA, so you're going to see it anywhere you go. Like, you're going to see it
Mhm.
everywhere. So I'm actually coming from a rural area in Detroit, Michigan in general. So we don't see a lot of meditating. And, as an adult now, I meditate almost every day. So I think that once you practice meditation and, actually and start to visualize those things that you want from yourself, whether it's just on a daily goal, like if you're just trying to get through the day, like
Mhm.
visualizing what your day is going to be like from the moment
Mhm.
you step out of your world and go into the actual world. What is your day going to be like? And those that there would actually help you get through those days. You'll find yourself not really going through those challenges. Like if you get to so for me, like if I'm running late somewhere, um, I am going to say I'm going to have traffic is going to be great. It's going to be easy. I'm going to make it there with no red lights, all of those things. And
Mhm.
usually that's what comes to pass. And it
Mhm.
sounds it sounds like something that you normally don't hear, but once you
I do the
practice,
same thing.
yeah. So I think that because of that, now you're actually cultivating the things that you want out of your life. But meditating for some, it just sounds so, it sounds easier than done. How do you
Mhm.
meditate? So I want to kind of share what are some practices or some techniques that anyone or everyone can actually start implementing for themselves to start this meditation process where they don't feel like it's uncomfortable or they may be embarrassed to tell their friends or family that I'm meditating. It's not,
Mhm.
what are some things that you may suggest to these individuals?
Mhm. Yeah, and kind of going back to the word meditate too, it can sound, especially if you've never practiced meditation before, it can sound overwhelming or scary, or maybe the ideas that you have of meditation in your head and like what that looks like. It's like, oh, that's not for me. But meditating can be whatever it is for you. Walking meditation, sitting meditation, laying
Mhm.
meditation. You can do guided meditations, like having somebody guide you. Like I said, that's kind of like what I do with my clients. Sometimes, if we're really working through something within a session, I'll lead them through the process. It can be 2 minutes, it can be 5 minutes, it can be 20 minutes. It really is up to you. You can make your practice whatever it is for you where you feel good. For me, meditating is like if I can even give myself 5 breaths in the morning before I get out of bed, before I start my day. Even for me, just like getting my head right before I get out of bed. Lately, I've been doing like before I climb out of bed at all, I'm like, okay, we're having a good day. Now get out of bed. And so like, and then that sets me up good. Um, even if like, so I guess this is another topic about like what you were saying, where you when you're like running late somewhere, or you just when you go anywhere, you're like affirming like, okay, we're gonna drive, traffic's good, we're hitting the green lights, and all of that, and like kind of creating that path for yourself, and the way that you react to things throughout your day is so important. And meditation can be a really good practice if you start to notice that you're getting frustrated with things that are happening around you. You find that your reactions are really heated or like charged, frustration, anger. Even if you're sad about something that happened, even if it's just taking a moment, saying like, okay, I'm just going to focus on one thing, my breath. And just sit in your car, stand wherever you are, like facing the sun. That's one of my favorite things. And of course, with your eyes closed, with your face in the sun. So just reiterate that. But really taking time to focus on your breath, slowing it down, and feeling like you're in control of that. And just letting, like exhaling the negative energy. So if I think about what I want to inhale, what I want to bring more of into my life. So I'll inhale strength, clarity, passion, and I'll exhale judgment, negative energy, things that are keeping me down. And I'll do that. I'll inhale and exhale that. You don't even have to attach words to it. You could just focus on your breath. But again, guided meditations were one of the first ways that I got into it. And I used them specifically for that reason I just explained. Like if I realized I was having, like my mind started going crazy, I was having negative reactions to the things around me, I would do a guided meditation, 5 to 10 minutes, and then I would feel renewed to move on for the rest of my day. And it was just one of the best things ever. But like I said, it could be anything. You can make it what you want. Visual meditations was what I was talking about earlier, where you are imagining what you're creating for yourself. Or really, the way I see it is connecting to the higher version of yourself, maybe yourself that's in like a higher frequency. This is like starting to get into other like more spiritual language, but connecting to that higher frequency version of yourself that is experiencing what you want to experience, that win, that success, achieving your goals, and bringing that forward to you in the present moment. And really living in the energy of that version of you that is, again, achieving success, making that win, getting the outcomes that you want, and being able to attract that to your life with that energy. So I know that that's where meditation can like start to sound woo, but yeah, I guess those are my tips.
Yeah, and one of the most beneficial, I think you stated earlier, was walking. Like people don't understand how beneficial it is to walk. Like even if you have music or headphones in, walking. I think it was a study where it actually walking for 5 or 10 minutes a day actually helps you clear a lot of the things that you may be having challenges with, or you're just trying to figure out certain things. Just taking a brief walk can help you identify a lot of the things that you need to, recognize. And meditation, we see and we think that is, you're sitting in some forest-like environment and you're sitting here doing some crazy pose. But
Mhm.
It could be a lot of different, ways. You can be walking. You can actually be playing your sport. Like that can
Mhm.
be a form of meditation. I think
Yeah.
if it puts you at that peak state, at your higher self, if you're really in alignment with, your highest frequency, then
Mhm.
that's you meditating. And
Yeah.
sometimes for me, I would use that as a form of meditation. I didn't
Mhm.
know that it was a meditative state, or I was in a meditative state. Like if there were things that were I would have challenges with, or if there's some life issue that I'm dealing with, I would revert to go find a place to actually play basketball alone, and that will help me, feel better at the end of it, because that's where my higher self was.
Mhm.
And it doesn't always have to be in this quiet area. I mean, it does help to be in spaces where you don't have a lot of distractions.
Mhm.
But I think that when we're talking about meditating, yes, it is to clarify certain things that you're, dealing with, or you're trying to see yourself at a better position that you're currently in. But it also helps with, your everyday tasks. Like you said, if you once you wake up, you're automatically thinking about certain things. For me, like if I wake up and I have a negative thought, like I'm going back to sleep and I will wake up again. Like I really don't like to wake up in a
Mhm.
state where my the first thing I think of is just something that could be worrying. So I
Mhm.
like to make that first thought very intentional, so that it can carry out throughout the day.
Yeah,
And
with the sorry, I just want to jump in and add into that too. Like with that intentional first thought, it's and like you're saying with the meditating, it could even be like with your food, like just being present in general. Like I have this thing I call like a strawberry meditation. I studied a lot of like, well, maybe not a lot, but I read a lot of about Zen Buddhism, and that was a first main like lessons for me in terms of creating mindfulness and being present and all that stuff. And even if you just look at your food, or like look at a strawberry, and you create like all this gratitude around how this strawberry was brought to you, and all the work that it took to have this strawberry in your hands. Like it came from the earth. The farmers tended to the soil, watered the soil, the earth, like the rain. They harvest the fruit. They send it off to the grocery store, like all the deliveries, and then you go to the grocery store to pick it up, and now it is in your hand. And just being grateful for that entire path. So I think even meditation can be like just being present with whatever's in front of you, and also bringing gratitude to you in the present moment, because that's going to automatically make you feel so much better. And with that intentionality too, like right before you do something, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna give this my all, or like I'm gonna be here with my food, and it's gonna make it taste like so much better, and you're gonna get so much more nourishment out of it too, in whatever activity you're doing.
yes, and I would like to. We're going to go into that. We're going to segue into the nutrition side of everything. Now, that's important. Number one is what you're digesting, but like you said, the gratitude of it, like those small incremental things that you won't even think of. That is the things you need to be grateful for. Like whoever cultivated or whoever produced this or cared for this before it reached me, I'm grateful for them to care so much about how or what the quality of their strawberries are, and then the soil that it was. Those is intentional things that allows you to actually stay in that higher state. So now that you're being grateful for these little things, now when you do receive the things that you're actually asking for, you're trying to attract, they become effortlessly. Like you're not always having to be in this meditative state to attract. It's just effortlessly happening because you're already showing gratefulness or gratitude towards the things that you're not paying attention to. But aside from that, I think that the thing that you are digesting, you're putting in your body is number one important. And it took me a while to understand it because before I was, at this age I am now, I would eat whatever, a lot of junk food, a lot of soda, pop, whatever you guys call it over in LA. We call it pop in Michigan.
We
Is
just
it
call it like soda.
okay? So you guys call it soda over there. So like soda, juice, sugar, artificial, all those things definitely affects the energy that you produce in your day-to-day activities. Like I will, I didn't realize until one day I was eating, I was just eating like in the morning, and I would be like, why do I feel like so sluggish? And then one day I just decided not to eat this certain type of food, and replaced it with a smoothie. And then now my energy is different. And then I was like, it took a while because again, we're not taught that, hey, don't eat meat in the morning because that meat probably went through X, Y, and Z before it got to you, and all that energy is carried into it. And now, that's just on a spiritual level, but in the actual nutritional facts of it, it's going to drain you rather than give you more energy. So I want to kind of talk about that, like the nutrition side of things, of like when you're out and you're performing, you're going to your day to day things. What are some of the things you want to be mindful for when you're actually ingesting, your diet?
Yeah, there's so much I could say. And I've learned so much more on my journey, like to a deeper level that is so disturbing, that I can no longer go back to foods that I used to eat, like growing up, and even like foods that I used to eat a couple years ago. And foods where I'm like, okay, maybe I can eat it this one time, but no, I get sick. My body's like, you can't eat that anymore because of the way that I have been eating now and the quality of food that I eat now. My body rejects the other stuff. Well, maybe not like full on rejects, but like I get those signs and symptoms that are telling me, like, hey, Emily, like that really hurt my stomach. Like, don't eat that anymore. Okay, what I would say for myself in the standard of food that I eat, um, might be different than what I would help a client with that's just kind of starting out on their journey, trying to get a little bit more healthy, making those healthy swaps, changing things out. Because I went through all of those too over the years that led me to the point where I'm at now, which is like just a little different. It's hard to go from A to Z. Sometimes you got to take like A to B to C to D. So I guess what that looks like is making those healthy swaps. Like what I used to do before was, if I was eating Doritos, I would change it out for like a healthier corn chip, that tasted similar but was made with better ingredients. So the ingredients are super important. On the bag, a lot of foods these days have artificial food dyes, and those are going to negatively affect your health. They are. It's not good for you. With the artificial ingredients, it's like your body doesn't know what that is. It's like kind of going back to that primal state, like our innate selves that really, like the cavemen and women on the planet were eating animals and plants and fruits. Like that's what our bodies know how to digest. What was given to us from the earth. All of the factory made processed foods are so detrimental to our health. Maybe not all of them, but especially the ones that are mass made, manufactured, really big food companies, just using really low quality ingredients and chemicals in the food. You're eating that, your body's absorbing it, it's sending it to your cells. Your immune system, like 90% of your immune system resides in your gut, which means that what you eat has an effect on how well your immune system functions. So, if you're eating junk food and not feeding yourself a lot of nutrients and vitamins and minerals, you're more likely to get sick, be prone to illness because your body is deprived of the essential nutrients that it needs to function at a high level, or at the level that maybe it's not a high level, maybe it's the level that we should be functioning at as a society, but because of the food that we're eating, the level that most people are functioning at is so low that when we eat foods from the earth, like in a whole foods diet, our bodies are at a high level compared to those that are eating processed food, fast food, all of that stuff. So I look at ingredients. I also pay attention to the source of the food. So I thought it was interesting what you said about the protein and in a spiritual level, like introducing that into your diet. I don't think this is talked about enough, but I think people know about it. Is it comes down to like farming. Farming is extremely important to pay attention to. The where you get your food from. Um, I know there's a lot of words on, like, take eggs for example. There's like, you go to the grocery store, there's a section for eggs, but there's like eight different signs of like eight different kinds of eggs that you can buy, and you're like, wait, do I buy brown eggs? Do I buy white eggs? Do I buy organic, pasture raised, cage free? Like, what does it all mean? So, and it's the same on like other meat packages. But if you think about, or if you find out where the food is coming from, and maybe you've seen some of those documentaries on Netflix, but the animals, so if they're pumping steroids or hormones or antibiotics into the animals, and then we eat those animal tissues, that is also going into our body. The stress that the animal is experiencing, all of the stuff that's in its body, like, damn right, that's going to make it into our body if that's the animal that we're eating. Like, we have to make those connections. And so it's important, like, there's this funny skit on Portlandia from a while ago where they're in a restaurant and they're asking the server, like, how do they treat the animals on the farm where like you got your meat from? Like, are they being rocked to bed, sing a lullaby? Like, are they loved? But it's so true. Like, the animal should be roaming pastures in its natural habitat, living its life the way it evolutionarily is supposed to, for it to be the healthiest quality tissue that it will, the healthiest animal that it can be. And then if we're going to eat animals, like, and if we want to eat the healthiest quality animal, healthiest quality tissue, that's the kind of animal that we want to be eating, is the one that's roaming on a pasture, loving its life, not packed tight on top of one another in a barn, or in a cage, like in darkness. Because that's where a lot of these industrial farms, like, that's what they're doing. And so we're eating like stressed animal tissue, or most of us are, and that has an effect on our bodies. So that's in talking about quality protein. So I get pasture raised meat, pasture raised eggs, organic, and also that version of farming is really good for the earth too. It's like the best way to farm, is having that, like, regenerative farming. And there's so much I could say about the food too.
Yeah,
There's
no,
so much.
yeah, and that's the point, is that we're in America, and we're one of the most obese countries in the world, on the globe, and it's because of yeah, food is good and we love good food and you can't deny it, but it does affect your well-being. And like you said, if we go down to a spiritual level of this animal, if you're digesting animals, or even the fruits and veggies, like how are those being cultivated, what is actually being sprayed on them, like what are there pesticides, all those type of things really matter, because if at the end of the day you are ingesting this substance, and it is going to go throughout your organs in your body, and it's going to affect you, and you want to know that. Now we're being more intentional about what we're doing in our day-to-day lives, because for me, I think that I want to live a good life, and a long life if possible, so that I'm able to, withstand certain things so I can stay protected from, these things that arises in the actual world. So when it comes to that, if you are feeling sluggish or in your day, like it could be just something that you ate. It could be that hamburger that you ate from McDonald's or whatever, like Steak and Shake or In and Out Burger. Like it's not that you're just having a bad day. It could be because of something that you've eaten that energy carried over from where it actually originated. Now because
Mhm.
you've digested it, now you feel that way as well.
Mhm.
And that topic there, it again, it helps with the performance of your day to day. So if you're going into work, a lot of people say all the time, why do I get tired after I go to lunch? Because you just probably had a big lunch, you probably ate a
Mhm.
burger, you probably ate some chicken or something, and that's going to take your energy. Now if you were eating something, some veggies or some fruits, then that energy is more pure because it's not a lot of things that you can do to a strawberry to make it like live in a bad environment. So
Mhm.
so as long as you're eating things that that carries like actual nutrition, like water and the vitamins, that's going to give you that energy that you need to stay at a higher state. um,
Mhm.
and I think again that's what we want to be mindful of, just going out into your day to day as a business owner. We have to carry a lot of stress already as a business owner, where you need to understand certain things to keep your business operational. You want to keep that at a minimum, and you don't want it to be something that's withholding you because of what you've eating. Like, but yeah, and Emily, she shares a lot of expertise in the health and nutrition side of our well being as an athlete or as an entrepreneur, or as just everyone in general. But Emily, is there anything that you would like to share with everyone that can honestly kind of help them get through their day to day activities, just on the health side or the nutrition side in general?
Yeah, it when it comes down to it, you don't need to make a super big shift to see results. You can make small little adjustments here and there, trying things, even something like just increasing your water intake. You might see some really great benefits from that. And like I said, just making those small shifts in your day to day, those will compound and create a ripple effect in your life and even for those around you too.
Awesome. And, for anyone listening, thank you guys for listening, taking the time out to, understand what it is to actually be more mindful of your health and how it actually affects your performance in your day to day activities as an athlete or as a business owner or just anyone in general. But if you do have any other questions, you do want to know more about what you can do to put yourself in a higher state and be more intentional about how you're carrying and maintaining your body, I'm sure Emily will be fully glad to answer any questions that you guys have. How can we find you, Emily?
Yeah, I'm probably most active on Instagram, so you can find me on there at Emily Nader Fit. Nader spelled Nader. If you found me through here, let me know, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you, like your first session free, and help you work through anything that you're experiencing.
Awesome, awesome, you guys. And, thank you for taking the time, to listen to us. And thank you, Emily, for sharing your expertise with us and sharing your time with us to, shed some awareness on why it's very important to stay aware of what you're doing with yourself. And, as an athlete, I know a lot of you guys are listening, and, a lot of you want to be top performing, the top dog on the court, on the field, or wherever you're playing. These things are important: staying in a high mental state and staying very intentional on how you're treating yourself, what type of recovery processes you're putting yourself through. But again, if you have any questions on those topics, Emily, she would be definitely grateful enough to be able to help you with that. But Emily, is there anything else that you would like to share with the community before we go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah, really believe in yourself. I think that is the number one thing. Even if you have all the haters around you that aren't believing in you, you have your back, you live your life, and do what it takes to get that goal, get that dream.
Awesome. You guys believe in yourself and, block the haters out because they are out there and we know that. But without further ado, Emily, thank you for your time again. You're an amazing woman. I hope that you continue to prosper
Thank
and a
you.
lot of great things continue to happen for you. You guys, thank you for listening. Again, thank you. You can find me anywhere on Instagram at I am DGKT and Concept Talk Podcast here, YouTube. Guys, stay on the lookout for our next episode. And peace.